Hey there, Internet! Welcome to the Hard On Gear channel, where I discuss and review my used and abused knives and gear, so that you know what is or isn't worth spending your hard-earned money on. Here we go for the second unboxing of the day. I probably won't be releasing both of these videos on the same day, but I happened to get this here Spyderco knife the same time as I got the Wrap Model 1, which the video should be up by now if you want to check out the unboxing for this guy. Now, the title will give it away, but if you haven't looked at it for some reason, you might be noticing that this is a big old box and probably not a folding knife from Spyderco. This is a budget fixed blade that was actually on my list of top 10 fixed blades that I'm looking to buy in the near future, which is another video which I'll plug right up here. But if you want to stick around for this video, this is the Spyderco Bow River budget fixed blade EDC knife. I say EDC, but I mean it's small enough to EDC, but it's not a horizontal carry, but a vertical carry. So it's not going to be as convenient as something like the Azula 2, which you can carry horizontally, Scout, or Appendix carry, which is a little bit less cumbersome, a little bit less in the way when you're getting up, standing, sitting, all that kind of stuff in your vehicle. But the Bow River is still pretty small, and EDCing it wouldn't be much of an issue. And if you are like myself, or you kind of work in the woods or in some kind of a rural environment where you can get away with carrying a fixed blade on your hip, it's not a big deal. So packaging, we've got a little cardboard sheath around the tip there. Let's not cut myself right off the bat. Hey, look at that. Sharp enough anyways. But that doesn't really impress me all that much when knives are razor sharp out of the box, because they should be. But put that down for a second just to see what we have in here. Just the Spyderco. Okay, it is Bow River specific. Gives a little story on Phil Wilson, the designer of this knife. Does it explain how this was created after the... oh crap, what's it called? Drawing a blank. I had to go back and look at my YouTube video where I talked about it, but it's going to drive me crazy as soon as I see the freaking name of it. But it's $500 and it's well out of my freaking price range. Based off of the, what's it called, the South Fork. Son of a gun. Yeah, so that's the Spyderco South Fork, what the Bow River here is modeled after. But yeah, the South Fork costs $500. It's got, I think, S30 or S35 VN blade steel. This is a little bit cheaper with the 8CR13 MLV, but what a wonderful blade steel for a knife that's going to cost you like 40 or 50 bucks. As soon as I first seen this knife, probably discussed, I believe, on one of the Blade HQ fixed blade videos from a year or two ago, but basically, this is kind of what I look for in a fixed blade knife as far as what I picture me using. Now, it certainly does feel like a knife that costs you under $100. It's not the fanciest thing in the world, and you can kind of feel maybe a little bit in the blade that it's not, it certainly isn't like an expensively ground custom knife. So the handle feels pretty good. To some people, this might look a little too basic or a little bit too, even for me, a little too traditional than what I typically buy. Not much of a leather guy, but for the price of this knife, getting a leather sheath seems like a pretty good win. We'll see how long it takes before I tear up or destroy this thing. Now, the downside, like this and a lot of fixed blades, is that it comes with a right-hand draw sheath, which is a pain in the butt for myself, a left-handed person. But I'm pretty used to reverse drawing knives, fixed blades from that left-handed side, and then just switching them around if I have to. Like for most work, I'm using a regular forward grip, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt. But again, for the price of 45 bucks, I might have paid 50 bucks for this thing, but I think it was around 40, 45 bucks Canadian, even less if you're in the States. Well worth buying it to try it out, test it out. I will carry this thing a little bit, maybe for a week or two, just to see how it carries and give you a good bit of feedback on my review once it comes time for that. But I can't see me carrying a vertical carry fixed blade. When I bought this Grohmann DH Russell belt knife here close to a year ago, this #1 design Grohmann knife is super popular, super awesome. I've seen tons of my co-workers carrying this thing, and they're very common to see. I know a lot of folks don't mind carrying this leather sheath on their hip, but I did carry it for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it was just too annoying for me getting in and out of vehicles and stuff all the time. I do a lot of driving for my job and to and from work, so just not really my thing. A little bit bigger, I believe this will be a little bit less cumbersome, a little bit less noticeable than the Grohmann knife. But compared to the Azula 2, this is just, it's so much easier, so much less noticeable. I forget that thing is on me most of the time. Let's do some size comparisons. Oh, and then I mentioned, I believe it's G10. This is G10 handle scale on that full tang fixed blade. There's your Azula #2, quite a bit smaller. There's the Grohmann #1 design, a little bit bigger. And here's the K-Bar 1211 USMC Big old classic fixed blade in a little bit of a different category than these other guys, but just to give you that size comparison of that very popular knife, which I do have a full review on this fella if you want to check that out. But that K-Bar USMC is something I'm a little more used to carrying, or even the K-Bar Large Heavy Bowie, which is closer to a foot long and definitely not an EDC capable knife. But just to drive home the point that I'm used to carrying and handling knives closer to this size, so something like this Bow River is going to be pretty manageable for me. It's super easy for me to EDC this and not draw too much attention because most of my coworkers and friends are used to seeing me carry things like this. Oh, and hey there, viewers of the Hog channel. If you wouldn't mind, if you're enjoying this content, go ahead and click the like button as it helps the channel out and gets this video out to more knife enthusiasts. Subscribe and turn the bell on if you're into that kind of stuff. And if you look down in the description, there's also some Amazon affiliate links for all the knives and gear that are being discussed here if you would like to purchase through there and support the channel, as well as the Hog Patreon if you want to support that way. All the money will be going towards new knives and gear and equipment for the channel. And I should point out that like all Spydercos, the Bow River has that little Spidey hole there, which is a trademark Spyderco round hole, which is on, I think every single one of Spyderco's knives, including their chef knives, their fixed blades, everything. Now in the folders, it's all function because that round hole makes for the easiest, most consistent, and I guess hard to miss deployment of just about any opening system that you're going to come across. If you want to wheel it open, if you want to flick it open, of course there's the Spidey flick, which you can reverse flick a lot of knives, but the Spidey flick comes from that Spidey hole, the Spidey drop. It's pretty damn slick. But the fixed blade's just kind of there for the looks and to kind of keep it consistent with that Spyderco branding. The issue is that that does compromise the strength of the blade. So if the blade were to snap, it's probably going to snap there. It probably was going to snap there anyways if it was going to snap anywhere from you prying or putting too much leverage in a way that you shouldn't. However, there's no doubt that's going to weaken the structural integrity. Unless I'm crazy, I am not a physics major. I do not know the most about blade geometry or blade strength, blade properties, whatever. If anyone's familiar with any stories of these Spyderco fixed blades snapping at this point, definitely let me know down in the comments and spread the word, because it's something I'm a little concerned about. And once I've used this thing for EDC for a while, I'll give it a solid chance and I'll see what I can put it through and try not to break it. But if I break it, $40, I'll replace it. So the blade here, it is a full flat grind with not a very thick secondary bevel. It's definitely sharp though, and I'm assuming, well, it's popping hair. Yeah, it's popping a decent amount of hairs off. Not quite as sharp as the Rat Model 1, which I just unboxed. HCR13 is a pretty comparable steel to AUS 8. Both quite stainless, both quite easy to sharpen, both not the most retentive of the edge. This thing here, oh yeah, no, it's shaving every single hair off. So that AUS 8 came razor hair popping sharp out of the box. This HCR13 MOV, it's still pretty damn close. Maybe I wasn't pushing hard enough, scared to cut myself. But yeah, no, you know what? It's pretty sharp down the body. Yeah, maybe slightly inconsistent. Yeah, it's still pretty damn sharp. And hair popping out of the box, what's kind of what you expect. Not really that big of a deal, and that's going to be not hair popping sharp as soon as I cut something a little bit thicker or a little bit more fibrous or dense like wood or rope or zip ties or anything like that. So what do I plan on using this thing for? Well, like I said, I will try EDCing it for a couple of weeks. I don't know if that'll be in addition to the Azula number 2 or to replace it. I'm so used to having this in appendix carry in the front of my waist. It sounds so stupid, but I don't know if I want to get rid of it just because I'm so used to it there. There was so much time and effort put into picking this knife out as my EDC fixed blade. There are numerous videos on me talking about why I picked multiple knives for EDC, why I picked this knife in particular, but the best one for you to check out would be the full Azula 2 review if you want to follow the card up there. That'll tell you everything you need to know about this knife and why I chose this knife as the ultimate EDC fixed blade, at least for where I live and for what I do and what I use my knives for. But either way, this thing will get some carrying time and some use, and I'll let you know. And then afterwards, I think what this will end up being is maybe a knife that goes into a fishing bag or a hunting bag. I don't do a whole lot of fishing or hunting, but that's kind of the point. It's cheap enough and it's not something I see myself using all the time. Where it is stainless and fairly low maintenance, throwing it into some kind of a bag like that just to have an extra knife kicking around, I can see me finding some purpose for this thing. I really do like the handle. I kind of wish this forward choil position in the blade was a little bit more pronounced, kind of like the Azula. I really don't ever see my fingers sliding up on this thing. You see how like that? Yeah, that's pretty dangerous looking, right? I really feel safe that that's going to catch on there. I don't want to do that with this. That's going to slide right up and over there. I kind of felt it every time I've grabbed it so far. And when I drew it out of the sheath in that reverse grip, I actually kind of felt like my pinky gets kind of close to wanting to slide that way. I kind of don't like the lack of finger protection on that. But if you're using this appropriately and not stabbing really hard into stuff, which as long as your thumb's there, whatever, you should be fine. But I guess if we were talking about this being a tactical knife, which we're not, and just for the record, I do not promote the sale or the use or the modification of knives as weapons, just so that's very clear to the good people of YouTube. Give me a few months with this thing and I will let you know what I think of it in full review. A pretty awesome knife. Bang for your buck if you're looking for a fixed blade to beat around or use for hunting, fishing, camping, anything like that. I believe this is marketed to be a canoe knife, but it's going to serve any kind of purpose that you're looking for in the woods. Although the leather sheath will not last quite as long in wet and rugged conditions as something like Kydex. Although that being said, I have busted the rivets out of one of these sheaths already, so there's a bit of a trade-off. Maybe a little bit more likely to snap something, but a little bit less likely to warp or loosen up over time. If you think this is the perfect EDC knife, let me know down in the comments why you prefer to carry something like this. If you want to see why I carry the things I carry, you can check out a video explaining why I kind of picked these knives, along with the trusty little Leatherman squirt, just to round out that EDC. So there's the full reviews for all three of these, and there's also the video talking about, in particular, why I chose this combination. That'll keep you busy for now until the full review for the Spyderco Bow River comes out, but I'm very excited to get this knife. I've wanted it pretty much since I started this channel. I knew I was going to get it at some point, and I'm looking forward to testing it out. For now, this is the Hard On Gear channel, signing off.